Have you ever stopped to think about why we argue so much? N has suggested that the obsession with debate might be the biggest sign of weakness there is. Shocking, isn't it? After all, we live in a world where arguing seems to be the pinnacle of intelligence. But what if it's just a facade, a mask for insecurity, disguised as rationality? Now think about the last time you got into an argument. Maybe it was to prove a point or defend something you believed in. In the end, was it worth it? Or was it like shouting into the wind, hoping it would change direction? N challenges us to strip away appearances and face a provocative question: is true strength found in debate, or in those who don't need it today? Let's deconstruct the logic that underpins both modern society and our personal struggles. It won't be comfortable, but it might just be eye-opening. Socrates believed reason was the lamp that illuminated the darkness of ignorance. To him, living without examining one's life was like navigating without a compass, lost in a sea of uncertainties. It's a powerful idea, but also a dangerous one. By placing reason at the center of everything, he left us a complex legacy: the compulsion to justify even what doesn't need justification. Think about something simple, like making a decision based on instinct. Have you ever liked someone and just knew deep down that you didn't need a reason, but then reason shows up like an uninvited guest, asking, why do you like this person? Are they the right choice? The same happens with work decisions or moments of risk sometimes. A business person feels they should invest in something even without all the numbers in hand. They trust what they feel, not what they can prove. For Socrates, this would almost be a sin. Reason, when used wisely, is like a sharp knife. It cuts through confusion, separating truths from lies, but it can also wound us. Imagine someone who overanalyzes every little detail before acting, a prisoner of their own doubts. Simple decisions turn into a labyrinth of justifications. What was meant to be a tool becomes a burden. Pascal once said, "The heart has its reasons, which reason does not know." He reminds us that not everything important can be explained. Intuition, feelings, what we call instinct, these play a vital role in life. Yet we live in such a Socratic society that when we can't explain something, we feel lost, or worse, guilty. Socrates gave us a way of thinking, but has it also become a tyrant over our actions? How many times have you held back from doing something because you could unjustify it? And do we really need to justify everything? There are moments when overthinking is the worst enemy of action. Ancient cultures, like hunter-gatherer tribes, didn't have the luxury of spending hours debating what to do. If instinct said to run, hunt, or fight, that's what they did. For them, survival was in the hands of the body and impulse, not the mind and doubt. Today, this might seem primitive, but are we really so different? Consider a soccer player making a split-second decision. He doesn't calculate angles or analyze every possibility. He feels a quick touch, a precise shot, and the goal happens. Not because he thought about it, but because he trusted what his body knew how to do, just like a wild animal doesn't justify its strength, it simply acts. Nietzsche saw this as a fundamental truth to him. A lion doesn't ask itself whether it should hunt. It doesn't write treatises on morality or seek the approval of its peers. It just is. This strength born from instinct is natural, and perhaps even superior to logic. In contrast, we live in an age where everything demands an explanation. We act as though the value of our actions depends on the validation of others or some invisible rule. But what if some of our best decisions come from what we couldn't explain? Think back to a time when you felt the right path to take. Maybe it was during a job interview, in a relationship, or even in a moment of danger. Instinct spoke louder, and you acted before you thought, and it worked out. Not everything that matters can be explained. Not everything explained matters. This phrase captures the dilemma well. In our quest to justify every step we lose touch with something more visceral, more pure, our intuition. The power of instinct doesn't ask for permission. It simply exists, ready to be used. The real question is, are we ready to trust what we feel without the need to justify every choice? Some people believe debate is a way to showcase intelligence and strength, but N saw it differently for him. Debate was often the weapon of the resentful, a way to compensate for a lack of power, with sharp words used not to build, but to attack. Look around you. Social media is the perfect example. How often do you see endless arguments about politics, morality, or even trivial topics? And how many of those discussions actually change anything? Most of the time, it's just people trying to win through logic, because deep down they lack another way to assert themselves. Resentment reveals itself in these moments as an invisible fuel. The frustration of lacking the power to act turns into a desire to convince, to attack, to be heard. N called this the morality of slaves. He noticed a pattern in the actions of the weaker. Instead of confronting what oppresses them directly, they create values and narratives to justify their position. It's like a bird trapped in a cage, trying to open the door with its bee, not out of malice, but out of desperation, and debate, in these cases, becomes the cage itself. This doesn't mean that debate is always bad, but it's worth asking, why are we debating? Is it to exchange ideas, or to reaffirm our place in the world? Think about that online argument you stuck with 4 hours, knowing from the start that no one would change their mind. Was it worth it? Or was it like walking in circles, exhausting yourself without ever getting anywhere? The truth is that debate can be liberating, but it can also be a sign of weakness. When we obsessively argue, we're not just defending ideas, we're trying to fill the void left by a lack of action. And this is the question N forces us to face. Do we argue because we believe, or because we can't act? Philosophy is often seen as the pinnacle of wisdom, but N, with his critical lens, presents us with an uncomfortable challenge. Does excessive questioning bring us closer to the truth, or does it paralyze us? To him, the pursuit of external justifications can become a prison, a symptom of weakness, not strength. Consider the modern phenomenon of overthinking it. When you analyze a situation so much that instead of gaining clarity, you become even more confused and paralyzed. How many times have you delayed an important decision because you were trying to predict every possible outcome? It's like trying to cross a river, but spending so much time studying the currents that by the time you finally jump, the opportunity is gone. N saw something similar in philosophy. Excessive reflection can create a kind of paralysis, where thinking becomes more important than acting. Procrastination is a practical example of this. You have an important task, but instead of starting, you spend hours crafting the perfect plan, searching for the best approach, or waiting for the ideal moment. In the end, nothing happens, while you think the world around you keeps moving. Schopenhauer, whom N admired and critiqued, offers an interesting counterpoint for Schafo. The will was the driving force of life, but also the source of all suffering. The difference is that Nietzsche rejected resignation. He believed in action, in overcoming endless questioning, while you re-wondering if you should act. The world has already changed. This phrase captures the urgency of his critique. This doesn't mean N dismissed philosophical thought. On the contrary, he saw value in reflection, but only when it led to real transformation. For him, wisdom should be a tool, not an excuse to avoid life. So what does this mean for us? Perhaps it's time to ask, are we thinking to live, or living to think? Because, in the end, the philosophy that matters is the one that pushes us forward, not the one that keeps us stuck in inertia. The Uber MCH, or Overman, is one of Arne's most challenging concepts. It is not just a figure of physical strength, but someone who transcends the limitations imposed by inherited values. The Ubermensch doesn't seek external justifications. He creates his own values and lives with a confidence that comes from within. Picture a tree growing alone in a vast field. It has no shade to protect it, but it also has no competitors for its light. Its roots grow deep because it relies solely on itself. This is the essence of the Übermensch, being self-sufficient and finding strength in one's instinct without needing validation or support. Today, the Übermensch appears in many forms. Think of entrepreneurs who create groundbreaking businesses, or artists who take bold risks with unconventional work. These individuals challenge the status quo and are unafraid to fail. Because their actions do not depend on anyone's approval, they represent a return to instinctive confidence, that strength that can't be explained, but is deeply felt. However, living as an Übermensch isn't easy. It takes courage to abandon the values we inherit from society, traditions, or even the people who raised us. It's always easier to follow a well-trodden path than to carve out new ones. Our next question remains: are we willing to face this creative solitude? The Übermensch, therefore, is a metaphor for humanity's potential to live beyond conventions. He doesn't ask if he is right or wrong. He decides the compass guiding him is one he creates himself, pointing to a direction only he understands. But in today's world, can we truly free ourselves from the need to justify our actions and create our own values, or are we still seeking approval in everything we do? Philosophy at its core should help us understand the world, yet at some point it began dictating rules on how to live and believed. This shift occurred when abstract ideas were turned into universal truths. Locking natural instincts were turned into rigid moral dilemmas, creating a morality that makes us doubt even the simplest act of being ourselves. Think about an impulsive decision that changed your life for the better. Maybe you accepted an unexpected invitation, or made a quick choice in crisis. Even then, how often did you feel guilt, asking yourself if it was right? That's where modern morality becomes a burden, teaching us to distrust instinct, to correct what is natural instead of trusting it. Nietzsche saw Christianity as a main architect of this mindset. By glorifying sacrifice and self-denial, it created a world where even spontaneous actions, eating, loving, deciding, needed justification. Yet, has this moral order made us better, or just more insecure? Today we feel guilt for simple pleasures, for saying no, or for prioritizing ourselves. It's as if an invisible court judges every instinct we have. Instead of living as we are, we mold ourselves to fit ideals written by others. So ask yourself, are you living by instinct, or by rules that were handed down to you? Justice, too, Nietzsche said, is rarely neutral. It's a tool of the powerful to rule, or the weak to restrain. The Athenians told the people of Melos, the strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must. That truth hasn't changed. Power still defines justice, whether in wars, politics, or everyday life. Look at modern debates. How often justice becomes an excuse to push one's own interest under the mask of virtue. Nietzsche forces us to ask, is justice truly universal, or a moral language written by those who benefit most from it? We live in an era obsessed with words, endless panels, comments, and arguments online. On the surface, this looks like intellectual freedom, but Nietzsche saw it as decay. Constant debate, he said, is a distraction from action. We argue not to change the world, but to feel relevant, to fill a void left by inaction. Most discussions end with bruised egos and no solutions, a fire that burns without giving light. He warned that a society addicted to words loses its strength to act. Philosophy means nothing if it never leaves the page. Living beyond good and evil doesn't mean rejecting morality, but freeing ourselves from external validation. Nietzsche believed morality often serves society's comfort. not the individual's growth. Even small choices, buying something for yourself, saying no, choosing solitude, are judged by others. Yet true strength, he said, lies in inner permission. Freedom begins when we stop seeking approval and start living by our own compass. Picture someone leaving a safe career to follow their calling. That decision, though judged reckless, is rooted in authenticity, not apology. Nietzsche didn't reject reason, he rejected its tyranny. He urged balance, reason for clarity, instinct for courage. Life, like walking a tightrope, needs both. Too much logic, and you freeze. Too much impulse, and you fall. The art is harmony. Think of an entrepreneur who trusts their vision before evidence exists. Instinct gives birth to the idea. Reason shapes its form. Without one, the other collapses. Nietzsche's transcendence meant not discarding reason, but commanding it, using thought in service of life, not as a cage around it. We lean too far either way. Some overthink until they never act, others act without reflection. Nietzsche's challenge is to unite the mind that plans with the body that feels, to live through integration, not conflict. Growth, he said, comes through discomfort, questioning what feels safe, what we never dared to doubt. So, what now? When was the last time you made a decision without explaining it? Not to others, not even to yourself. That quiet certainty, that instinctive step, is freedom. Nietzsche called it the strength that acts from within, unafraid of judgment. Perhaps that's where real philosophy begins, not in what we read, but in what we do. Because all this reason, instinct, morality, leads to one question: who commands your choices? The strength Nietzsche spoke of isn't to impress others, it's for you. It doesn't ask for justification. It doesn't need to persuade. It simply acts. The world will always have its expectations, but only you decide what to do with them.